Driven, Remax Hallmark's real estate show, with your hosts, Johnder, Perez, and Dan Salhany.
Welcome everybody to our December Driven show. We've got a couple of special guests today that are joining us. Johnder.
Welcome to the Driven Real Estate Show, everybody, by Remax Hallmark. We are your hosts, Johnder, Perez, and
Dan Salhany from Ottawa.
Amazing. And for those of you who are joining us today, you're in for a special treat because Dan and myself, we didn't know who the special guest was. We get the usual promo flyers or images that Shant sends out, and he didn't put the guest on here. So we're kind of scrambling here. If you notice, there were some technical glitches to start with, and we still have no idea who the special guest is, but I'm just looking at the names here. I see a Santa Claus. Santa Claus, like somebody named Santa Claus is here with us. Do you think that's a special guest, Dan?
I don't think we have a realtor named Santa Claus, and it's really tough to monitor these Zoom meetings because we obviously don't want people tapping in to our calls or hacking into our calls. So, Santa Claus, can you please identify yourself? Hello?
Everyone, I'm sorry. I was just doing some reading up to become a better Santa Claus.
Santa Claus. So that's who
How is everyone?
No, we're doing fantastic, Santa Claus. So you are the special guest today. I guess it makes sense when you look at the silhouette of the image that Shant posted. It makes sense that it's Santa Claus that joined us. So Santa Claus, where are you broadcasting from this morning or evening, wherever you are?
Well, Johnder, it's nice to see you. And I'll tell you now, you actually made the good list this year, unlike your other half, Dan, who's stuck on the naughty list again.
I was hoping to be on the naughty list this year, actually, and I was hoping that Dan was on the good list. So.
Oh no, Dan's been stuck there for the last 12 years. Well, to be honest, I am up in the North Pole doing my last preparations. And let's be honest, I wasn't the special guest. I got my good friend Chris Clark to be on with you guys finally and to share all his real estate wisdom.
Shanta, you mean Chris Cook, Shanta, right?
Chris Cook, I'm sorry. There's so many Chris's on my list. There's so many Chris's on my list. I can't tell who's who anymore.
Shanta, you gotta ease off on that eggnog, Shanta. Do you have anything else that you wanted to share with us? I know you've been watching all of us Hallmarkers.
I just wanted to come on to wish all your Remax Hallmarkers a very merry, happy holiday and an amazing happy new year. Let's hope 2022 is a great one for you guys. Oh boy, Mrs. Claus, that's the North Pole. We don't dance on the North Pole, Mrs. Claus. Sorry, guys, I gotta go get her off the North. I'm sorry. Have a great show, folks. Then take care.
Thank you so much, Santa.
Thank you, Santa Claus,
for appearing and for the special gift that you've given us, Mr. Chris Cook. Now, we have an interesting story that we wanted to share here, actually, before we get started with this final Driven episode of the year. So, Chris, was it really 2 years ago that we had an original interview? So for many of you who remember, Driven used to be just an audio podcast before you got to see the good-looking host that hosts it on video, now that we're on YouTube. And we had actually had what's called the long lost episode from Chris Cook. And was it 2 years ago? Could you confirm when we did that original airing?
It was, I remember because I just recently moved into a different office space there. You were one of the first people that came in it. And now we're going to be moving out of it because we're not going to be in that space any longer. But yeah, it's been just a little bit more than 2 years, I think now.
Amazing. So ladies and gentlemen who are joining us for this special Driven Real Estate Show episode, the last one of 2021, we'd like to introduce our special guest, Chris Cook. So Chris, let's jump into the interview right now and let's ask the question that everybody wants to know. Chris, what is the secret to your real estate success?
I mean, there's not any, I don't think necessarily one thing in particular, but in general, I think something that I came to realize probably right around the time where we last met was to not try to build somebody else's business. It was right around that sort of like mid to late 2019 when I realized that if I was going to build a successful business, it was going to be mine. It was going to be something that that reflected who I am and what I want to achieve. So I think that was probably the biggest thing that that would be different from our first interview to now, is that I've taken the last couple of years and really dove into figuring out, what kind of business I want to have and how that reflects me.
Absolutely.
So Chris, let's do a little bit of a rewind, if you don't mind. I don't know you super well, and I think it's important for people to kind of get the background story on how did you start in real estate?
Well, I originally had an idea that I wanted to be a realtor as I was transitioning out of what I was doing. So I was a professional athlete. I was on the Canadian sailing team and a national team athlete and an Olympian in 2008. And so that's a kind of, there's a lot of scary things that kind of revolve around leaving something where you're the best in the world or amongst the best in the world at what you do, and then you're going to go and start something over. You're going to start at the bottom. And so it was a bit of right around 2008, I was thinking that I wanted to pursue real estate. I enjoyed a lot of the aspects of it, or for what I understood to be real estate. But I got sidelined. I got offered a job coaching in the sailing industry, and I embarrassingly, I chickened out, and I took the easy road. I took the coaching role, but I quickly realized I don't really, I don't work well in that kind of in somebody else's structure. I didn't really work well working for somebody else and pursuing other people's goals, I guess. And so it was pretty quick for me to realize that it wasn't, staying in sailing was going to leave me pretty unfulfilled. And it all kind of came to a point where right after my first son was born, and I was traveling about 250 days a year, and my wife and I we had this, we'll call it we had a talk. Okay. This is we had a huge fight, but it's probably more like it, about the travel aspect of what I was doing. And she had sort of reminded me of my aspirations to be a real estate agent, back in 2008. And so I took the plunge with a baby and another one on the way. We took the plunge to go into the industry. And it was because, I like the idea of the challenge, and I like the idea of building something myself.
And it's very interesting because I remember vividly when we were recording this episode, and because I tried some video as well, if you remember, we tried to do some bit of promo on it. And you have a name for your group, the Halyard Group. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but the Halyard Group. And Halyard is why don't you explain it? Because it has obviously a sailing, it's a terminology in sailing. So why don't you explain what the Halyard Group means, and then.
Yeah, so I knew that I wanted to have a tie, because I'd spent my entire life in the sailing community and in the sailing world, and I wanted to have something that sort of tied those two things together. And so I looked at a bunch of different sort of ideas, and the Halyard, what the Halyard is it's a rope that goes up to the top of the mast, and it holds the sail up. And so by itself, the Halyard doesn't make the boat go any faster, but if it were to break, if it were to fail in some way, the sail would fall down and you wouldn't go anywhere. And so that's kind of the way that I envisioned, what a real estate agent really does, is where these, like when we do it really well, nobody knows we're there, and it just kind of, it looks easy. But if you remove us from the equation, then things get really out of control in a really big hurry.
Yeah, and that's the essential part of it, and that's why the significance really stuck with me after that interview of what it meant. And of course, it's amazing that you tied in your past experience as a professional athlete, and then going into coaching, and then tying it into your real estate business, which has become your passion. So, Chris, I remember when we first talked about the challenges you faced, how you started out in the business, that we talked about all sorts of different things that you did back then, which is probably over 2 years ago, whenever we did that, including the lead generation, including trying to build out your team, including all the different facets of advertising that you're doing. So Chris, to refresh everybody who's now listening and watching this, how did you build out your business to the point that it is today? And for example, what kind of lead generation do you do? What kind of prospecting do you do now? And do you have the team, and what are you, how are you building out your business right now?
Yeah. So when I got into the business, I listened to a lot of different podcasts and a lot of different interviews, and searched the internet on exactly the thing that nobody tells you while you're doing your real estate license is, like, you got to get clients. You got to have people who, it doesn't matter how good you are at selling real estate, you got to get people to want to do it with you. And so right from the beginning, the sort of common theme that I saw for a lot of the younger agents that were very successful was around online lead generation. And so I've tried over the years, I've tried a lot of different approaches to online lead generation. I've paid for online leads. I've tried boosting ads. I've done a lot of different approaches to online lead generation. Since we talked, I think is kind of a bit of a breakthrough of where I came to on it. And I stopped treating the lead generation like the leads like commodities. It's not really a commodity. You don't pay $20 and like, what are you paying for when you pay for these things? And so I actually about 2 years ago, I brought everything in-house. And so I do all my own online lead generation, all my own social media posts. I don't outsource anything, nothing. And what I found was that online lead generation isn't only for the people who you don't know. It's probably more so for the people that are already in your sphere. It keeps you top of mind, but it also builds up your authority. So we worked on a bunch of different really important things to keep focused on exactly what it is, the content we're putting out, what channels we're putting it out on, who we were targeting, and all that sort of thing. So my organic business is really what's driven my success over the last year in particular. But also now we're starting to get people that are just phoning me who I've never met before in my life, but they feel like they know me because of the social media content that I'm putting out. You've seen it, like, it's very organic. Like, I don't do a lot of editing. And for the most part, most of the videos that I shoot are 30 seconds long, and we do one take.
Right. And it's interesting because we saw that evolution. And when we first talked about it, it was strictly, I remember, I was more focused on, okay, Chris, what are the numbers? What is the cost? What is the conversion? Because we want to share sort of that insight with everybody. But, as the years progress, we learn more and more that, the point of view that, internet leads are all garbage, or they're no good, they're not going to convert. We're forgetting a key fact that these are people, and these are people that are initiating conversations. And it's just a matter of at what point are they in that journey where the conversation is going to make sense for them to become somebody you can assist versus somebody that might need a bit of nurturing. And so I'm glad that, throughout your journey and over the past couple of years that you've been doing this, it's come to that realization, and it certainly has paid off for you.
Yeah, and it's become less of a pull and more of a push. So I push the information out, and then people come to me organically. I don't have to convince them to work with me. In most cases, I'm the only person that they're talking to because they've already made up their mind by the time they pick up the phone.
Absolutely.
So, Chris, it sounds like over the last 13 years, you've obviously had some challenges, right? Challenges with, the family scenario and, what this business, some to a certain degree, the toll it takes, but then obviously there's the benefits of any business for that matter. But, and it sounds like you've adapted multiple times and looked at your business and reevaluated your business and so forth. And that obviously can cause a lot of stress and so forth. So what is it that keeps you motivated to keep moving forward?
I'm a competitive person. But this is part of the other thing, what I started with is not, I'm not trying to build somebody else's business. I'm not in competition with other real estate agents. It's not, it was a bit of a realization for me, a couple of years ago, really, that I'm in competition with myself. This is like, I want to accomplish certain things. And so for me, it's switched away from, the need to be able to make a certain amount of money to pay the bills, to wanting to build something worthwhile. And it was the one thing that I took away from being a sailing coach, working with national team athletes and working with top athletes, was my ability to be able to build a team. And to be able to be adaptive and to be able to change and see problems and solve problems. So that's kind of where I'm going, and what kind of lights my fire these days is less so on the actual selling of real estate specifically, and more to helping other people be, far more successful, far faster within a team environment than they would on their own. So that's kind of where I'm going right now. And we just hired our second buyer agent. We're hiring a third in probably January or February. And the goal, my goal is to have 10 people on the team, 10 agents on the team with support staff and everything that go along with that. But my goal is to have each one of those people on the team, each selling at least 100 units a year. Mm-hmm. So our team as a whole sells 1,000 homes a year, which is only like 0.5% of what it sells in Toronto. It's not even that much in terms of like the grand scheme of sales. But each agent on my team every year is a millionaire year over year. And then because we have all of the support structure that goes along behind that, they're also not killing themselves to achieve that.
Which is a great goal, and by all means, we're going to continue to see you grow, and with the mindset of, and I love the fact that you said that you're in competition with yourself because you're looking at your own metrics to set the bar for yourself. So knowing that you were a professional athlete, you got into coaching, which is of course leadership and guiding people, and now you're coaching your team to succeed at such great heights. Chris, what would a typical day for you look like? Because I know when you're an athlete, it's pure training, right? And it's constantly going. And then when you did a lot of the traveling because of your position, you've got time is a limited resource enough as it is. So what do you do from the moment you get up in the morning to the point you call it a day?
Yeah, and that's changed a lot, even in the last couple of months. I hired my first buyer agent in April of this year. Everything I did before that was myself and my assistant Elaine. And so we did, I think there was, I can't remember if it was March. I think it was March. We did 12 transactions in March alone. And I did them all by myself. And it was just absolutely slayed because I was traveling I was never home. I was a repeat of what was happening before. Mm-hmm. But I told my wife going into this, that there would be a 5-year sort of time frame where I was going to be as absent maybe I'll be sleeping at home. That's the difference. But I'm going to be on the road. I'm going to be handling clients. I'm going to be doing all these things. And so this last year was about kind of backing away from the active part of the business, bringing people in to handle that so that I could focus back on the learning and growth part. So my days now are a lot more chill. I don't have nearly as much to do. I'm home in the evenings. I'm home on the weekends. My team is handling open houses and showings and all that sort of stuff. And they're handling a lot of because we have an immense number of leads that come in. We generate, between 6 and 10 leads every single day in-house. And they all need to be called and nurtured and followed up on. Plus everybody's sphere of influence, which, my team has probably, between the two agents, I think they got about 1,500 people in their sphere of influence that all need to, and so we help with that. But, we have a virtual assistant in the Philippines and that's full-time. I have my assistant Elaine, who's here on the ground, and then 2 buyer agents plus myself. So it makes it just a lot more it makes a lot easier day when you have help and they're really kind of focused on what it is their roles are.
I think the interesting part of the conversation, Chris, I'm listening in on you and I'm thinking, you know what, it's been 12 or 13 years in real estate, you've reevaluated and you were by yourself. And so I think for anybody that's on the call or that's listening into the show, it's always about going back to take a look at what's happening and defining what it is that you want. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not going to happen instantaneously, but it sounds like you kind of pulled back, set a bit of a plan, and things are now coming into, kind of falling into place based on that reevaluation.
This is actually just my 5th year licensed.
Oh, it is. I'm sorry. I don't know why I thought I heard 2008 earlier.
Yeah, well, that was kind of where that's when I chickened out. I chickened out back in 2008.
Okay. I
took the plunge in 2016. I was like, no, this is what we're going to do. So it's, I think that there are certain things that have to happen if you're going to be a successful real estate agent. I think you got to go through that pain of, having 20 clients on the go at any given time and dropping the ball and, letting people down. Like I let some people down in just, you don't do 12 deals by yourself in a month and not fail in some areas. And so for me, it was a big realization, was like, I'm going to make maybe 10% more if I do this by myself, but I'm going to lose untold fortunes and confidences of people by trying to do it myself. And so hiring people, it was such a logical step. It was the right thing to do. And since I hired my first person on, I've become addicted to it. If I find something I don't particularly like doing, then I hire somebody to do it, and I free up more of my time to hang out. Like I'm actually in like a COVID lockdown with my daughter right now. No big deal. My business is still running. I still have people on the ground and making calls, and
it's great to see that, Chris, because in such a short time span, and considering it is just your 5th year license, you've been able to achieve platinum levels of sales within the RE/MAX system and build up a team, build up systems for lead generation, and yet you're not afraid to admit the fact that yes, as realtors we do get challenged, we do drop the ball. Let's face it, it's not always slam dunk every single time, especially in this current market where multiple offers are rampant and listing inventory is so tight no matter where you are in the Ontario region. And so, Chris, some of us watch, well, some of our Hallmarkers here and some realtors who will be watching this later on are newer realtors. Some of them may have less than your years of experience. Some of them may be 20, 30 plus years in the business. And yet at the same time, we're always continuously growing, continuously seeking new ways of doing things. And of course, more importantly, we're always learning from each other. So Chris, before we wrap up our fantastic episode today, What would your advice be for any realtor watching this, regardless of how many years they've been in the business? What would you tell them to help them out in their business?
Yeah, the number one thing is that you have to treat your business like a business, not like it's not a piggy bank. And this is what I think where the public perception kind of leaks into a lot of agents too, is, you sell a house for $1 million and you get $25,000. No, you do not. Your business gets $25,000. And so then where does that money get spent to improve and grow your business? And that was something, I did it because like I've always, I had a philosophy as an athlete was you got to I called it spend to win. You had the more money you had to throw at a particular problem, the more likely it is to be solved. Obviously you have to use your brain and everything else, all your other tools. But what I see a lot of is agents that aren't planning for growth, and they're not planning, and it's fine if you don't want to grow, but at least plan to improve and to create a better product. And that's the way that you're going to build a sustainable business where you're not worrying, in December, what January is going to look like. Mm-hmm. And that'd be my advice to anybody, especially newer agents, maybe agents that aren't coming in with a business background, is you should get some business acumen behind you. You should figure out how much money are you spending to do your job, do a profits and losses, keep track of that sort of information so that you know how much you're actually taking home.
Chris, I'm getting so many nuggets here. I don't know if you guys are about just attitude and mindset and, disciplines to how you look at every day and how you've been able to, revert back to recognizing what it is that you need. And I mean, it might not be the same ultimate goals for everybody that's on the call, but the mindset behind it and the plan is, it sounds like you're really starting to put that together for yourself, and things are starting to come to fruition based on that plan. So is there anybody on the call that has any questions for Chris whatsoever? I know that Johnder's posted his contact information on the chat. So it's Chris Cook at Halyardgroup.ca, and that's HALYARDGROUP.ca for those of you that are tuning in on the stream, because you can't see obviously can't see the chat that we've got going on here. Any questions out there, guys? I know Steve Tabrizi's on the call. Steve, I'm gonna unmute you here because you look like you're reaching for your mic.
Great nugget, great insight, Chris. Thank you for sharing. Amazing. It's always great to hear a success from someone else, how they did it. But hey, what I hear from your story, it's all back to the basic. Just do the basic on a daily basis, and it works. It always works.
Yeah, the other thing that's interesting, Steve, is you also don't fit that demographic of social, of all that, the typical that we see online and so forth, yet you've been able to embrace it as a business tool by the sounds of it, in order to, to connect and further your reach and so forth. And obviously, if your team is seeing 6 to 8 leads every single day, I mean, that's a pretty significant return, especially when it's self-generated, right? Because a lot of people reach out and go to the paid things. I see Lisa shaking her head there, confirming that. So I think it's just about really setting out a plan and the disciplines. And it sounds like you've done a brilliant job at doing that, Chris. So we congratulate you for that. And before we wrap up, we just wanted to wish you the very best, you and your family. Hopefully you get out of the quarantine as quickly as possible. And we want to thank you for taking the time to be with us and to sharing your wisdom and a little bit of insight. And we hope that people that will reflect on this and look at this show down the road will look at it and go, hey, you know what, this individual's done it. I'm very capable of doing it as well. So we encourage you guys to reach out to Chris, regardless of what regions that you're in. There's opportunities for you guys to refer and to obviously grow your sphere within the RE/MAX Hallmark network. And of course, thank you to Johnder for being such a wonderful host. And On behalf of Johnder and I, we want to wish you guys happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever it is that you're celebrating as we move into 2022. Great health for you and your families. That's the key. That's the priority for everybody. And then we'll look forward to seeing you guys in January for our next Driven show. Johnder, you want to wrap up?
Another fantastic year of Driven coming up next year, so stay tuned for that. And you never know, maybe one of you are going to be on that show in the coming years. So amazing. Thank you always for your support. And you know what? We love you guys, and looking forward to another fantastic year. Thanks again, everybody.
Chris. Happy holidays, everybody.
Chris, thanks
Thank you.
again.
Thanks.
See you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye now.